Greetings everyone, welcome to Chess Advance, and this is game 2 of Blitz between in Katowice 2025 between Gukesh and Jan-Krzysztof Duda. So definitely the games are going to be absolutely amazing. First game Gukesh was able to win with the white pieces, but now he's with the black pieces, and that game I've shown in the channel, so you can check that out. But here with the black pieces, let's see how he's able to deal with Duda. Here just e4 by Duda, we have e5 by Gukesh, knight to f3, knight to c6, and knight to c3. Going for the 3 knights variation, we have knight to f6, going for the 4 knights variation, bishop to b5, but just bishop to d6. And now with d3 castles, and here just a3, but now just rook to e8. We have h3, knight to d4, and here just going for bishop to c4. You don't want to trade that. You don't want to allow that trade to happen. We have c6, and now the bishop is going to move forward. You're going to have a central thrust. We have castles, bishop to c7, bishop to g5, and just h6, and here just bishop to h4. We have g5, an immediate indication by Gukesh that he might be interested in more than a normal draw or more than a casual game. He might be interested in attacking Duda. And here we have bishop to g3, d5, and now just going for that thrust as planned. We have bishop to a2 and just knight caps on f3. We have queen captures, d4, just putting the knight back, and we have g4. I mean, this is very aggressive play by Gukesh. Absolutely very aggressive. Queen to e2, but now just g caps on h3. We have bishop to h4, but now h captures on g2. We have king captures, and here king to h8. Here we have rook to h1, rook to g8 check, king to f1, and here just bishop to g4. And here we have bishop to e2, king to h7, and there's a very beautiful tactic in this position. I hope that you're able to see it because this is absolutely amazing. Queen captures on h6, king captures, and bishop captures. And now only after once you move this queen captures, rook captures, the material is absolutely equal, but it just leads to a very very aesthetic look, because hereafter once you go for rook to h8 and both of these rooks occupy these files, white is going to have an amazing game and no issues for white in this position. But here after king to h7, he goes for a slower move in this position. Gukesh, he plays bishop to g5, just trying to capture that, but it's just a bit too slow, because here just h5, and now what are you doing? I mean, that bishop just looks silly there on that point. And here we have bishop caps on f7, just grabbing another pawn by Duda, but now just knight captures on e4. The best move in this position was queen to d6. You have to guard that knight, and here after rook to h2, now you play this rook to h8, f3 attacking the piece, but here just rook a f8, f captures, and here knight captures, but just this rook caps on h5 with a check. King to g7, rook caps on h8, but not capturing that, capturing this first with a check. Only now once the king moves, now you capture that pawn as well, and most likely this position is also going to lead with the draw. But black is the one who's better in this position, is much better, because here after knight to e3, queen can move, and this position is absolutely tricky, because here after knight caps on c2, this comes with a fork, but unfortunately you can only grab the pawn, because here after king to d1 you cannot capture this, because this is coming in the position, and after that it's going to be a draw. You cannot allow that. So here knight back to e3, but bishop captures, recaptures, and here after knight to f1 you play queen to b3 check, king moves, and here just the bishop is coming in the position as well. Rook slowly will get in the position, and not right now because queen is guarding that square, but later in the position, and it's going to be a very difficult position for white to hold. And Gukesh had that opportunity had he played that queen to d6 move, but instead in this position after bishop captures, he went for knight captures on e4, just trying to sacrifice the queen for this, but unfortunately it doesn't work, because here bishop caps on g8 first, and now queen captures and just d captures. So all in all, Gukesh is a pawn up, but it doesn't matter, because that pawn can be easily stopped or captured. Here rook to f8 was played by Gukesh, but just rook to g1. We have queen to g6, a4, and we have rook to f3. Here rook to a3, and this is the issue with this position. Here it's just you're advancing a bit too much, and you don't want to overextend, and you don't want to push your hand here. Here queen caps on e4 was played by Gukesh, capturing another pawn, but unfortunately this position is just very volatile, and now it could explode, and that could explode in white's favor very soon, as the engine is saying. Rook captures on f3, but here just queen captures, and here just queen to d3 was played, but here just a very nice e4 try by Gukesh, but just queen caps on f3. And here we have e captures, knight to d2, but now just the bishop to h3 check, king to e1, bishop to g2, but now this bishop to h4, and now the position is very difficult to play, because and here how do you deal with this position? Because here you have to understand that your rook is absolutely going to fall, but how do you want it to fall is up to you, because you have to understand that this is going to be very much difficult. If if the rook falls, let's say you move it here, then you can capture it, but after the captures you can understand that Most likely they're not going to capture, but most likely what they're going to do is just going to push the pawn, wait for white to do anything. But instead of all of that, here Jan-Krzysztof decided to go and capture it like this, because now if you capture, you're going to be just a piece down in a completely losing position. So bishop captures was played, but now we have rook to g5. So now Jan is up the exchange and in a completely winning position. But here maybe just Gukesh is hoping for a miracle, and there are too many pawns with the bishop pair. You might be able to get something. Bishop to d6 was played, bishop to f5, but just bishop to e4, bishop to f6, bishop to b4 check, king to d1, and just king to g7. And now just trying to push that pawn to victory, but here it's going to be very much difficult. As long as that bishop is on this, it's going to be very much difficult to push this pawn. We have bishop to d5, and now you can try and capture this, but then this comes and it's just not something you want to face. Here rook caps on d4 was played, but just bishop to d6, because even though you could have gone for that, but here after this then you would have to go back, and just not good enough. Here just p3 was played, but now just king to g6, and here after bishop to g3, if you trade, you're just dead lost, so there is no point in doing that. Bishop to c5 was played, attacking the rook, bishop to f4, bishop to d6, and bishop rook to d4. Bishop to c5, both players try to gain time on their clock. We have rook to d3, and in this position here, here the best move was just bishop to e7. You have to understand that you have to keep control of these squares and also try and push that pawn. So here after king to e2, you'd see h4, bishop moves, king to f7, king to f1, and after bishop to e4, you'll play this rook to d2. But after h3 and rook moves, you play bishop to f3, attacking the rook moves, and after a6, rook to e3, bishop to g2 check, king to g1. Here this bishop is going to have to remain on this diagonal for as long as possible, because if this bishop ever moves and if this bishop takes control of this diagonal, then that pawn could be pushed later in the future, and it could mean that Gukesh can make a comeback in this game. But it's just highly unlikely any grandmaster would ever allow this. But here after rook to d3, king to f5 was played, but now just comes this c4, attacking the bishop moves, attacking the rook, and here rook to d7, but just king to g4, rook to g7 check, king to h3, and just bishop to e2. Now this h4 is coming, but here in this position, just going for this very nice bishop to e5, but now just bishop to c2, rook caps on b7, king to g4, and just f3 check, king to f5. We have bishop to h2, but just a5, and here after king d2, attacking the bishop to b1, but just rook to d7. We have king to e6, and now it's a matter of time. I mean, one of those pawns fall as well. It's just an impossible position to hold, but Gukesh has realized this. But you have to understand that he has an outside pass pawn, so, and two bishops, so maybe he can just try and get a draw, but it's absolutely insane. Bishop to b4 check, king to c1, bishop to d3, rook caps on c6, and king moves. Rook to h6, king to g5, and just rook to e6, and king to f5, but just rook to e5 check, king moves, and here it's just very much difficult position to hold. Gukesh realizes this, but the thing is that it's a blitz game. Time is, it could be anyone's at this point. Here we have rook to h5, but just bishop to e1, defending that pawn, bishop to f4, but now just king to g6. Rook to g5 check, we have king to f6, rook to d5, and just bishop to f1. And though you could push this now, but here just comes king to d1, attacking the bishop, and now what do? If you play it here, then I mean, you could do that. Here bishop to b4 was played, but just now comes bishop to g5, and you lose that pawn. And Gukesh realizing this, and he lost, and he knows that he's lost in the game. So it was on this move, on move 68, that Gukesh Tomaraju resigned the game, and Duda made an epic comeback after his 68 move grind, and it's absolutely insane. But Gukesh was absolutely lost right where he was not able to find the queen to d6, because after captures he lost the rook and the position absolutely crumbled afterwards. So there was no point in continuing. But it's a blitz game, so he thought may as well continue. You never know what can happen. But yeah. Thank you all for watching. I'll be coming back with games like these, so stay tuned to the channel, subscribe to the channel, and I'll be seeing you guys very, very soon. Thank you all.